that doesn't mean we need to be disconnected from nature. So how can we find ways to still be connected to the environment we live in, to the natural resources and the environment that's all around us, to heal ourselves and to heal our planet?
Welcome to the Holistic Counseling Podcast, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chris. Such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for you to be here. But I'm just curious, what first interested you in a more holistic perspective in psychiatry?
Well, I think I entered psychiatry because I really find people interesting. I find just listening to people's stories and learning about who they are interesting. And the more you do that, you realize that people are complex. And you have to really view them holistically to order to understand them, especially if you're in a practice like psychiatry, where you're really trying to help people understand themselves and grow into their full selves better. So I think it's goes hand in hand with our mental health practice to view people holistically and just sitting with people, maybe
Yes.
want to view them holistically.
Yeah. And as a holistic therapist, I can't imagine not coming from the holistic perspective. I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah. And it's really, there's a parallel process that the more I allowed myself to become whole and view myself holistically, that translated into my professional work, because I think in our training, we so often get, squeezed into one dimension or a narrow view of ourselves in our professional seats. And the more that I allowed myself to become more whole, I think that just spilled over into, interacting with people on a whole level.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think the more that I've worked on myself personally, spiritually, physically, is just, I think I've come into my own to be better equipped and better able to be there for my clients. It just made me think of that as you're saying that.
Absolutely. I think there's always been a parallel process that the more whole I become, the more I can appreciate another person's wholeness and almost help and encourage them to unfold it.
And I think especially when we've been through some difficult things, but then we've been able to come to the other side sometimes. It's like, oh, even though, I've been through trauma, been through hard times, difficult things, but I've been able to find some healing.
Totally. Yes, it's like the ruptures help us remember that we are always whole and we always can come back to being whole.
Yeah, so true. So how is what you do as a psychiatrist different from other psychiatrists? How is and I want to say the word multidimensional that you use. I love that word.
Well, I'll just speak for myself. I think multidimensional psychiatry, which is the practice that I have, is my way of embracing my wholeness and my client's wholeness. And I use the term multidimensional because I really feel like there's multiple dimensions of myself and my work and my client that when I sit in the room together with them, so much comes out. So there's, of course, what we were trained to do in psychiatry and mental health, which is, gather symptoms and make a diagnosis and come up with a treatment plan. But I think as I opened to my multidimensionality, my spirituality, my energy healing, my deep connection to water, an intuitive knowing, all of that comes into the practice when I sit with a patient. So whatever intuitively comes up in my energy body and my body of water that I can reflect to the patient, it becomes a part of our healing modality and therapeutic tool, which is what I find most exciting and fun for myself.
Yeah, I know you mentioned water healing. So let's get into that. I'm so excited that this is something you offer. So what is water healing?
Yes, this is my favorite topic. Let's just dive into it.
Literally.
Literally, because we're already in there because our bodies are
made of water. For sure.
So I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, on the Pacific Islands of Hawaii, just surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. So I think I've always had this soul level connection to water, just loved the water. Just as a young child, would just spend hours just looking and staring and playing with the water and feeling like this is where I want to be. And then as I grew up and, continued in my medical training, I kind of both literally and metaphorically became more disconnected from the water. I had to move away from the islands to California to pursue my undergraduate studies. Then I moved further inland to the Midwest to pursue my medical school studies.
That had to be hard for you.
It was. I
Yes.
ended up in Chicago, which is on the shores of Lake Michigan. So there was a nice big body of water and plenty of snow there to introduce me to different forms of water. But it was a difference. And this whole journey of feeling so connected to water, and then at times in my life feeling like my relationship with water had to be either shelved or neglected, really came full circle in my own personal life journey as I came to realize that water was actually calling me back into relationship with it. Like it literally was calling me, saying, you forgot your relationship with water, and this is such a big part of who you are and what makes you whole. So as I continued to listen to that calling after I graduated from my psychiatry training and just restored my connection with water, I realized how much healing came out of that. And I wanted to bring that into my healing psychiatric practice because I think all of us, to some extent, have been disconnected from our relationship with water without even knowing it. And when we can restore that sacred relationship, there's so many ripple effects in our healing and wholeness. And so there's so many layers to that when I bring into the patient and client encounter. But I think even just having that overarching principle to start with, which is that we all have a sacred connection and relationship to water, and all of us have had a disconnection from it without even knowing it. If we haven't even realized it, that's because it just hasn't come into our consciousness yet. And part of my mission is to restore that human relationship to water that has been disconnected.
How do you do that?
I do it in a multidimensional way. So first of all, it's just kind of like opening that concept to people of have I been disconnected from my relationship with water? And then really, first and foremost, restoring people's connection with their own body of water, because this is the body of water that you have the most access to 24/7. So when
I think people forget that.
People do forget that. And I forgot that. When I moved away from Hawaii to California to Chicago, I was like, oh.
You're taking water with you in your body.
I'm like disconnected from the ocean. I'm like, I don't have that same relationship with water that I used to. But I forgot that I have a body of water that I carry with me at all times. And when I could tap into that through meditation, through energy, healing, it was transformative to realize that my relationship with water was first and foremost in my body. And then realizing that there's water wherever you live. So maybe I wasn't living close to the ocean anymore, but literally humans need water. All life on our planet needs water. So if you are alive, there's going to be a body of water source outside of your body, very close to you. And how can you restore your connection to that body of water, whatever it is? And really restoring your connection to the body of water inside of you, and then wherever you live, opens up this connection to yourself and your environment that is so healing and therapeutic, because most humans have become disconnected from nature and the natural world. And more than half humans live in urban populations now. And in the next 20 years, over 75% of people will live in urban populations, but that doesn't mean we need to be disconnected from nature. So how can we find ways to still be connected to the environment we live in, to the natural resources and the environment that's all around us, to heal ourselves and to heal our planet? There's multiple layers of working with water. First, it's just the consciousness of reconnecting to your body, reconnecting to the environment and the communities you live in. And then continuing to work to purify your water and restore its flow. I tell people, when you work with water, it's so simple, because water is so powerful and yet so simple, that if you just focus on the quality of your water and its flow, everything else will take care of itself. That's primarily the technique and modalities I use in terms of helping people to reconnect to their water and clearing it and purifying it and restoring its flow.
So if it's not flowing, I would think that stagnate is that like energy? 'Cause I know you mentioned energy healing is what you also use. Because I'm
Yes.
thinking that too is like if our water's not flowing, it's like that stagnant
Yes.
energy
So energy healing and water healing work
together.
are kind of the same. I think
Yeah.
this is like
Okay.
people don't realize how energy works in our body. It works because it's conducted through the water in our body.
Okay.
Water is how energy is conducted through our
Yes.
bodies. And so water work is energy work, one and the same. And there's different there's different modalities of energy work, breath work, yoga, qigong, tai chi. Everything that works with energy is working with water. And so when you work with energy and you realize there's an energy blockage or stagnation, that it's the same. There's a blockage in your water flowing, and there's a lot of different reasons and causes for that most energy healers know. There's usually locked trauma, unprocessed grief, just actual physical disconnection from rigidity in our bodies, of increasing mobility in our muscles and in our tissues. So there's all these layers of the physical, the emotional, the psychological, and the energetic all stored in our bodies that we help to unblock and restore flow to.
Yeah. So I guess I know you mentioned those movement modalities. So do you like to incorporate a lot of that into healing as well?
Yes, I personally practice yoga and something called the melt method, which I don't know if you're familiar with.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It's like restoring the fluid hydration to your myofascial layer. So it
Ooh.
kind of really helps you just, feel into all those like sort of aches and pains and places of rigidity in your body. It's because your myofascial layer is dehydrated and there needs to
Oh.
be,
So how does that what would be an example of a movement with that?
gosh, wow.
Do you have one?
I learned from my dear friend Ellen, who's a certified melt instructor. There's like these blue balls that you use to
Oh.
they're so pretty. They're like little earth balls to like rub around different pressure points
Oh,
on your
okay.
body. And there's also these blue rollers that you use
Nice.
to
Mhm.
roll around. Let me think if there's so you do use these blue balls and blue rollers to like move the fluid in your myofascial layer. And I'll share the
Yeah,
website with
that would
you.
be great. I have little massage balls. I don't know if that's similar,
It's
but
probably similar. Yeah. I think the whole
okay.
idea of
Mhm.
just restoring hydration to your myofascial layer.
So that's another way to move water.
Yeah, and then, gosh, Jinshin Jutsu is that sort of hands-on, non-invasive acupressure that helps to
Hmm.
move energy through your body by placing your hands at different places in
Oh,
your body. And that you don't need anything, so I can give you some
yeah, that would be
hand
curious.
movements. Would you be interested in that?
Yes, yes. Can you
Okay.
show me one?
I can show you one. And I
Yeah,
learned from my teacher,
nice.
Shelley, as well. I just want to like acknowledge my teachers. So there's a central channel in our energy body and system that moves through kind of like the chakra system. So different holistic bodies of knowledge have all worked on the same human body. They all work on the same energy system. They just have different ways of describing that. So the chakra system, the central
Mhm.
channel, there's an acknowledgement that there's this great sort of passageway of energy through the middle of our bodies. And in a water sense, that's like our main waterway. And so clearing the great central channel is a great way to move the energy and restore the flow in your body. If you just do that, that's what Shelley taught me. Again, you just restore flow to the main central channel, to your main energy system. So you could start by putting one hand on the top of your head, and you can choose whichever side you can start. And then you could put the other hand on your sort of like middle eye. And your hands right now are just kind of like acting like the two ends of a battery or a conductor to kind of improve the flow between those places. And then once you intuitively feel like I'm ready to move on, in the beginning they say hold it for like 10 seconds, but as you intuitively get to know your body of water, you could feel where there's a blockage and you need to hold it longer, or when like, oh, it feels like it's flowing, and then you can move the next you could keep one hand. I'm moving my left hand on my head, and you can move your next hand to your just right below your nose. So you're kind of just opening up the channels between wherever your hands are.
So this is under the nose.
Where the nose. And then you can move it to the throat if you feel like that's ready. And this is what acupuncture does.
I was going to say, yeah, reminds me of some of those spots where you get acupuncture.
This is a Jinshin Jitsu, non-invasive acupressure.
Nice.
It's working on the chakra systems. You can move your next one to your like heart chakra. And you're just opening the water, opening the energy flow in your great central channel and your main waterway. You can do this sitting up or lying down. It's traditionally done lying down, but we're recording a podcast. So
it's okay.
And then right in your navel.
Navel too.
Navel. Mm-hmm. Right at your belly button.
Yeah, I'm just like picturing where the chakras are as I do this.
Yeah, and you can, as you open up energy flow where there's usually stagnation, and sometimes it feels like uncomfortable at first. You're like, oh God, I feel tension there. But it's opening it up. It's opening it up. Water's flowing there now.
So I guess, is that good to use visualization of flow, water flowing?
Yes. Yeah. Use
energy
the visualization of water flowing to areas that have been parched and stuck and stagnant. And then putting I usually stand up for this part just to open up the flow more, right above your pubic bone. So right above your pubic bone, it just helps the flow if your whole channel is open. And you can kind of sometimes, if you get more familiar with energy flow in your body, you can feel like, oh wow, it feels really like tight and tense there. But now that water,
does it help it feel more relaxed? Maybe?
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
That's interesting.
It does.
So listeners, this might be something to try too, even laying down.
Yeah, I can email you a link to this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And we're almost done. And then you move your right hand that's on your pubic bone to your right, sort of like hip area.
Okay.
And then you move your left hand that was on top of your head to kind of like your sacral area. So now you're opening like one side of your hip, which is for women and for men too, but for women especially, there's so much stagnant, stuck energy here. And it's going to take some time to rehydrate, restore, replenish.
Yeah, as I put my hand there, it's just like all of a sudden my body just wanted to take a deep breath.
Yeah, so take a deep breath and just imagine water flowing through your central channel into your pelvic bowl, opening these tributaries that have been dried and parched for a long time. And you're just restoring water's flow to these, dammed up areas, these restricted areas in your own body that have been, you're probably not even aware that the water has not been flowing there. But whenever you feel physical tension in your body, that's because there's not enough hydration there.
Oh, okay. So this could be good for our listeners that are therapists that like to do this between session.
Oh my God. If all the therapists who sit in our desks all day restore hydration to our hips.
Oh, yeah.
And then we take that work into our client work and help them restore hydration in their body and in their flow. The ripple effect of this energy healing is going to be very healing for yourself first and foremost. I want results. I want direct experience. You're going to feel so much better in your body.
This feels really calming.
The reason I do this is because it's so easy and I feel better.
Yeah.
So I want people to feel better and feel that they have the power and ability to really redirect flow of their water in their bodies. It's so empowering to know that I can really sense and restore the flow of water in my body. And that's going to help me feel more whole and healthy and fluid and really into all my work in the world. So that was just...
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Gift. Yes.
Yeah, my hips feel a little looser right
It
now.
like brought up some calm because, like I said, I was telling her before I started today, my microphone fell apart, my stand. So I'm trying to get ready for this interview and had all these I don't know. We have the eclipse today as we record this. I don't know. The energy's weird today. I had some other tech issues, so I was trying to. My flow was a little stagnant. So,
Well, it can be restored very
it's
quickly.
very restored, yes. Well, one
Yes.
thing that I've learned, I've taken a lot of mindful movement courses and teaching qigong to
Mhm.
clients as well, and that's been so powerful to add that in addition to yoga. That's all about moving the qi and the energy.
Mhm.
I can't say enough good things about it. Does that get the water flowing too? And
Yes, anything that works on the energy in your body, qigong, yoga, that's the water flow. But then when you actually can consciously be aware that it's like actually water that is facilitating this
yeah,
energy
because I never
flow.
even like put that together. Yeah, with
Again,
water.
this is like the big sort
Mm,
of like disconnection we've all had from water,
sure.
that once we restore that, it's going to be life changing in terms of how you relate to yourself and water in yourself and on our planet. And that's
Right.
really, when you're talking about planetary health, the reason our environmental crisis is the way it is people have become disconnected from the environment and from water. We kind of like take life for granted, that it's just going to continue to take care of us. But if we don't take care of it, just like our bodies, if we don't take care of our bodies can't support our lives. If we can't take care of our planet won't support us. So it's a really, important connection to remake.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's not. I've never heard this before in all my experience, so this is
Yeah.
really fascinating to think about with all my yoga training and movement trainings.
Well, I love that, Chris, because you have spoken. I looked at your to so many holistic practitioners. Like you
Yes.
are so steeped in
Yes, I am.
this holistic healing community, and I think people, even holistic practitioners who are so open to energy healing and intuition, we need to make the connection that this is through water
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is through our connection to nature and our environment. And that
Mhm.
is going to just open a whole another dimension to our healing. This is what multidimension is about. So
True.
there's a dimension of our connection to the natural world that has been severed. And this is the work of reconnecting that dimension. So you can do your holistic healing work, you know, in your practice, in your communities, but there might still be another dimension of connection to our planet, to our natural world that is needs to be restored for greater healing.
Absolutely. And that's why I talk to a lot of clients too about getting outside more too.
Yes.
And I'm wondering too, now that you say all this with water, like, is that a good recommendation for clients to go to water, especially
Yes.
even if it's cold? Just can you sit by a body of water, you
Yes,
know?
yes, yeah. So,
Okay.
like, can I just speak more
Yes, please. Tell me about that.
blue health? So, it's becoming the scientific and academic data and evidence is now emerging on all the health benefits of being outside, and not just
Hmm.
in green spaces, but specifically in blue spaces near and around water. And for someone like me who's like loved water and has known its healing qualities from a young age and has always been naturally called to water, having the scientific and academic community now show like published data around it in one way is validating, to be like, oh, now other people will hear and listen. But on another way, it's also like, this is so obvious,
Of course.
but maybe we need
Yeah.
to spell it out. Maybe
Yeah,
we need
yeah,
to
for
spell it
sure.
out. So yes, there's a whole emerging body of water called Blue Health now, which is
Oh, okay.
showing that the health benefits of spending time in and around and near water improves our physical and
Oh, okay.
psychological and emotional health. And they kind of have found that you need to spend about 2 hours a week in order to get those health benefits. If you spend less than that, they don't really see that it's really sinking in as much. But the 2 hours a week can be split up into, multiple shorter encounters. It doesn't need to be 2 hours together. And yes, just even looking at water, you don't even have to get in it. Even looking at water, it makes you feel more calm. And get this, it doesn't even have to be like real water. You could even look at a picture of water.
Oh, okay. So having artwork.
Having artwork,
Nice.
your screensaver. My screensaver is of a picture of like dolphins swimming. And I feel like I sit in front of my computer a lot, and just having that almost kind of reconnects my brain to the consciousness of water. But there's so many different ways of intentionally connecting with water that will improve your physical and emotional and psychological health. And the aspect, it seems, is like having the intention. Because literally, we're all around water all day. Like, you're connected to your body of water 24/7. But if you have no conscious awareness of that, and you're not intentionally going to connect with your body of water, you're probably not going to get the health benefits. Even though you're literally around water. We're all literally around water all day. But if we just spent 10 minutes reconnecting to that internal waterway inside of us, that would be considered 10 minutes to add to your blue health of 2 hours a week.
Yay. We did good.
And there's so many ways you can connect to water and add it up to 2 hours a week.
Okay.
And you're going to really feel its benefits.
Because I'm wondering too, with water sports, getting out on the water more. Because I know when I went to Aruba last week, when I had some moments too that I'm, especially on vacation, of course, but just taking a catamaran and floating through the Caribbean, it took me so into the moment, that mindfulness of the breeze, just floating through the water, just feeling the sun. It was just, there's no words. It's like, I don't even know how to put words to it.
Exactly. What you're describing is water's multidimensional healing properties. So water itself is very magical. Like there's just the physical, chemical H2O that is needed to hydrate our bodies and make sure we're alive and pump the blood through our bodies and tissues. But beyond that chemical and mechanical property of water, water has multidimensional qualities, which is why even looking at it calms your brain, which is why there's a philosophy around thinking like water that helps us as humans learn how to train our brains to think more like water and be more in harmony with water, which is the biggest substance on our planet. And if water is in harmony on our planet, then we will all be in greater harmony. And then there's the energetic and spiritual connection with water that is beyond words, that is ineffable, but is so much a part of our multidimensional wholeness.
We're whole beings. We need the water.
Exactly. We are all water beings. We live on a planet that's 70% water, and we are all made up of 70% water. So again, it's almost like this basic fundamental fact that we all have forgotten, that we actually are all water beings. And water is this magical, powerful substance that's a part of us that we haven't, we've forgotten. We've forgotten that we have this inside of us, this magical healing material and substance that we have this relationship with. And, water won't let us forget it too long because we live on a watery planet. So you just go out and there's going to be water everywhere. But it's about the intention. It's about the intention of restoring your connection to water that is like this missing link, because all of us interact with water so many times a day.
True.
But if we aren't
baths and showers.
But if we aren't aware of
if you are intentional,
how sacred this is and how powerful it is, it's like it unlocks so much for you.
I did go to a float spa and floated. That was amazing. Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect. I was a little nervous. I was like, what am I doing? But it's, if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, so they have these spas where you go and it's like all this Epsom salt and you just float. You don't have to try to float. And so I turned off all the lights because you can have like these different shades of lights, but I turned it all off and just, you can put music on if you want. And I just floated in silence for an hour. It was awesome. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yes. There's so many different ways to interact with water therapeutically. So float spas, hot springs, baths, saunas, and besides going to wild water itself, just like going to wild water, the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, but even just in your own home, taking a bath, soaking your feet, drinking water intentionally. Yeah. There's so many ways to
that's what I wondered when you mentioned water. So if the water's not flowing, so if people aren't drinking enough water, is that something that you talk to your clients about?
Yeah, on a basic, very foundational level, if you're not drinking water and you're like, the way I say it is like, if your pee's too yellow, you probably should just drink more water and bring more physical water into your body.
Yeah, because that could cause a lot of issues too.
Totally. That's just like a foundational, and drinking pure water, like it doesn't need to have anything in it. Sometimes people like, putting flavorings and teas and stuff. But actually, the more I do this water work, the more I just want to drink pure water. I regulate the temperature quite a bit. That's like what I play with the most in terms of like how hot I want it or how room temperature I want it. I very rarely drink ice cold water, which is not good for your digestive system. Yeah, just pure water is probably the best thing you can drink.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of clients I talk to that about, because many are tired, irritable. And that's one of the things I talk to first. I'm like, just check how much water you're drinking, because a lot of people go around with chronic dehydration. And that's one thing that you can control, how much you're drinking water.
Very much so. Yeah. And just watching your own thirst level.
That's true too.
Mm-hmm. It's a good indicator.
Yeah, exactly. So I know one thing that I wondered about for you as a psychiatrist. I know a lot of listeners are therapists, and many are unsure about coming out of the holistic closet to talk about some of their holistic practices, because many are taught in the traditional realm. So can you talk about your journey coming out of the closet with some of your more holistic, I guess, interventions and spirituality and all that?
I'd love to. I actually have this Facebook book group called Mental Health Practitioners Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet.
I got to join that. I need a link.
I'll send you a link. My colleague started it with me, and we haven't been too active in it. But I think the fact that so many people wanted to join it shows that there's so many of us in this particular situation where we are multidimensional healers and practitioners. And we want to bring all of that to our therapy practices, to our mental health practices. We don't want to be just traditional checkbox rote practitioners. And I really ran into this as I went deeper into my own spirituality, my own spiritual growth, my own growth as an intuitive energy healer, is that the more I did that, the more I felt like it was a disservice for me to not bring this into my psychiatry practice. I no longer wanted to be, one way in my psychiatry practice and then doing my healing work on the side. I wanted to find a way to integrate the two. And at the time, I didn't feel like there were many role models of how to do that. So I just sort of charged ahead with I'm just going to speak my truth. I think water really helped me. Water just sort of finds a way forward. It carves new paths where there isn't one. It just trusts that if you just move forward, it will find a way. So I just sort of moved forward with the assistance of my water just to speak truthfully, just to speak directly, just to speak plainly about what it is I'm doing and sensing, and trusting that if it's coming from the right vibration of my truth, that it will meet my clients, my patients, other practitioners, wherever they are at. And if it's the right fit, if it's the right resonance, then it will touch them in the right way. In the same way that water meets you where you are at. Water, if you're ready for it, you'll take it in. And if you're not ready for it, it doesn't change the fact that it's there. And so I have found that the more I just move forward in my path, it just finds a way forward. And I don't even think of it as being in the spiritual closet anymore, because I feel like I'm just speaking like who
Sounds
I
like
am.
genuine, yeah, just being yourself and authentically you. Because I think if you tried to just be traditional in your approach, it wouldn't be you.
It wouldn't be me. I
Yeah.
would feel more fake or more of an imposter, hiding myself in this one-dimensional framework of mental health work than I do being more open. Isn't that so the flip, where we used to think that, as we share this woo-woo stuff, we are running into imposter syndrome. Whereas it's the opposite.
It's the opposite, isn't it?
When I hide all that, I'm not being true to myself. I'm being an imposter that this is all of who I am. That's not true. That's fake. I'm all of this. I'm the multidimensional.
Yes.
And I want to be truthful to you, my patient, my client, my community. And if it resonates with you,
great.
Then you'll seek me. And if it doesn't, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. There's somebody for everyone too, I think. And I think once I started to put that out there and put it on my website, and I did my About Me page, and do you know that clients reach out to me about that? They'll be like, I read your About Me, and this is why I sought you out. Because I talk about spiritual practice. I talk about tarot and such. I talk about all these different things that, are out there, and they're just like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
The right clients find you.
Yeah. So what's the best way for listeners to find you, to learn more about you?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. So in my psychiatry practice, it's multidimensionalpsychiatry.com. There's Facebook page, not a Facebook, Instagram handle, and also just the website. And then in my water work, there's waterkeeperscommunity.com website and Instagram. And I'll be hosting a Blue Health free webinar masterclass next week, Friday, sharing all of this information about Blue Health and practical tips and guidance around it. So I'll share the link with you if people want to register for it, just learn more.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Elizabeth. This was great.
Thank you so much, Chris, for doing the work you do.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in today. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday when another episode drops. And are you ready to take your journey as a holistic therapist to the next level? I'd like to personally invite you to be part of our growing community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for holistic therapy and the importance of investing in self-care. Come on over and join my Facebook group, the Holistic Counseling and Self-Care Group, a welcoming space to connect with other fellow holistic therapists, ask questions, share experiences, and exchange ideas. Go to hcpodcast.org/holistic group. That's hcpodcast.org/holistic group. And once again, this is Chris McDonald sending each one of you much light and love. Till next time, take care. Thanks for listening. The information in this podcast is for general educational purposes only, and it is given with the understanding that neither the host, the publisher, or the guests are giving legal, financial, counseling, or any other kind of professional advice. If you need a professional, please find the right one for you. The Holistic Counseling Podcast is proudly part of the Psych Craft Network.